Hello and welcome to Beads Jar. My name's Billy and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this very simple but very effective double strand tassel necklace. For this project I'll be using a 0.18 gold, antique gold cable wire. I've got some crimps, which I've also chosen in the antique gold colour, a 1.5 inch head pin, some metal beads, so I've got some tubes, some spacers, I've got a beautiful toggle clasp and two 8mm jump rings. In beads I'll be using the size 8 toe hose, 4mm Chinese crystals, 4mm hematites, 6mm hematites and 8mm Chinese crystals. I've got this fantastic metallic tassel, and for putting it all together I'll be using 2 pairs of flat nose pliers, side cutters and a pair of round nose. The first thing I'm going to do for this project is to add a section of beads above this beautiful tassel. If you have craft wire that's absolutely fine, and 0.6 will do, but I'm actually using this head pin. I'm just going to take the top off the head pin because I don't require that, so using the side cutters. And then I'm going to use my round nose pliers and I'm going to position that about 1/3 of the way up, and I'm going to wrap a U shape with the head pin. So I've just gone round the pliers to do that. Hook on the tassel to the head pin, and I'm going to create a little twist. So I'm just crossing the head pin over, and then I'm going to wrap a twist with the head pin. Like so. Take that excess wire away using the side cutters. And then I'm adding the beads that I want above it. So I'm going to pick up 2 of the little size 8 toe hose, 1 on either side of the crystal, and then pick up my round nose pliers again, and I'm going to hold the pliers flush with the top of the head pin, and I'm going to roll that down. So I'm just gripping, and as I re-grip I just twist the pin downwards. You'll have it so it's slightly P-shaped. If you go back to the start and then twist that back up, that will sit nice above the beads. I'm then going to cut my cable wire. So I'm going to cut a 30cm length. Oops. Using side cutters. I won't get very far with a pair of round nose pliers. And I'm going to start my threading. So I want the tassel in the centre, so pop that into the middle of my wire, and I'm then going to pick up my selection of beads. So we're going to do a Chinese crystal in the blue either side, followed by the hematite in the size 8. You'll be able to see those now. And then 3 on either side in the 8mm Chinese crystals. So you're going to do the same pattern on either side. So you just repeat this. I'll just show you what I've put on one side. So we're doing a hematite, a crystal, another hematite in the 6mm these are, a spacer daisy bead, 6mm hematite, daisy bead and a hematite. Then it's going to go on to 5 crystals. As I say, you'll be doing the same on the opposite side. Same pattern. So we've got 5 Chinese crystals, the metal tube, oops, slipped off, and I'm going to add another row of the crystals. When we get up to the toe hose, you can obviously choose which length. If you're going to have a very long lariat, do bear in mind you'll need a longer piece of cable wire as well. So I'm just adding more crystals here. Do 15 in total. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So that's my crystals, and now we're going on to the toe hose. Now you probably want to do about 2 inch of toe hose, 2 or 3 inch, as I say, all depending on how long you wish to have the necklace. So you're just going to start threading those up. Once you've got your toe hose on, do the other side, and I'll rejoin you on attaching the fastener. So I've threaded this beautiful necklace and the tassels in the middle, and I'm going to attach that to the fastener. I'm going to pick up my 2 pairs of flat nose pliers, and I'm going to open the jump ring. So I'm just going to hold one side with my pliers, and then I'm going to push the other side away to open it. Hook that onto the toggle clasp, or one side of the toggle clasp. Regrip the jump ring, and then I'm going to push that back together. So I'm just reversing the process, and you want to make sure there's no gap, and that's perfectly lined up. That's one side done, and I'm going to do the same on the other. So I'm going to open by pushing one away and bringing one towards me, and hook that onto the opposite side to the toggle clasp. Close that back together. Again, make sure there's no gap and they're perfectly joined up, which these ones aren't. So I'm going to just tweak that a bit further. That is now, so that's done. Still keeping the flat nose pliers, I'm going to pick up my strand of beads again and add to this end a single crimp bead. So I've put the crimp bead onto the wire, and I'm going to take that through the jump ring that I've just added to the toggle clasp. I'm then going to bring the wire back on itself and go through the crimp bead. So I'm pushing the crimp. So I've got the 2 tail ends here, so I'm going to grip them with my thumbnail, and I'm going to take the crimp as close to that jump ring as possible, because we don't want a big loop of wire here. So we've pushed that nice and close to the jump ring, and with the flat nose pliers you're going to crush the crimp bead flat. So you just want to get a nice tight grip, and you just crush it, squeeze the 2 pliers together. The tail end I'm not going to cut off, I'm going to slide back into the beads. So I'm just going to pick up the other side of my project, and you'll notice this is going to slip straight into the 8s, so the size 8 toe hose. This will stop any scratchy ends coming out and irritating the neck. So I've checked, it's not coming out anywhere, and I'll move to this side of the project. Take the other side of the toggle, and again pick up another crimp bead. So the crimp bead goes on. This time we're going to let the crimp bead fall to the beads, so it's sat next to the beads. Go through the jump ring and back. So we're going back, and we're going to go through the crimp bead and the first 5 toe hose, and then take the wire out to the side. So we're going back on ourselves through the crimp bead and first 5 toe hose. My tail end's coming out, so I can literally pull that, and as I pull this in, my loop's going to get smaller here. So I've got that nice and close, and there's no wire on display here. I then want to use my side cutters to take the excess wire off. I will be crimping this, but I'm going to take this end off first, and then you can pull that back in a bit. So smooth side of your cutters as close as you can and take that wire away. The reason I do that first is because that pulls the wire back inside the tow hose and again avoids having any scratchy ends on the neck at the back of the necklace. You can, if you want, just keep it to the single necklace with your fastener, or we can attach our next strand that's going to be the slightly shorter strand that sits in the centre. So I've pre-cut another length of wire, and I'm going to start this one slightly different because I'm going to attach this wire first. So I've got my next piece of wire, take a crimp bead and pop that onto the wire. We're going to go through the jump ring and then back, and then I'm taking the crimp bead up to the jump ring and I'm going to crush that. So now I've got my second wire attached to the fastener and I can start threading my beads. So the sequence for this is going to be the tow hose to start with, followed by our crystals. And again, the little tail is going to be tucked into these tow hose. We don't want that wire showing, so I'm just starting this section here. So thread your tow hose. We're going to have 25 tow hose in total. Always check that the wire hasn't slipped back out, so you just want to keep an eye on that as you're going around. And then we're going to pick up 7 of the blue crystals. So fill 7 crystals on there. Just need to pick up an extra few from my table. And then we're moving on to an intermittent design with the 4mm hematites in between the Swarovski crystals. Sorry, Chinese crystals, these ones. So we're going to alternate between crystal and hematite. And then I'm going to move on to add 4 of the large hematites. So I'll finish with a crystal and then add a 6mm hematite. In between each hematite, I'm going to add one of the daisy spacers. And then I've got 5 of the 8mm Chinese crystals. I'm now going to repeat that same sequence on this side. So just reversing that. So I've finished doing the threading for the opposite side, but it's replicated. And now I'm going to pick up my crimp bead and let that drop all the way down the wire to the beads. And I'm going through the jump ring on the opposite side of our toggle clasp. So up through the jump ring and then back down through the crimp bead and the first 5 toe hoes. Then take that wire out to the side and you're going to pull the tail end in. So pull that as tight as you can. We don't want any loop of wire on show, so I've pulled that in. And I'm going to cut that excess thread away. So using your side cutters, get in really nice and tight and take that away. And then we crimp. So flat nose pliers and you're crushing that crimp bead flat. Once it's crushed, it shouldn't move, so always check your crimp beads. And the toggle fastener just goes through with the bar and sits in the loop. And that is the beautiful double strand tassel necklace complete. As I mentioned, add any extra beads to create longer lengths. If you wanted a larger space, obviously make this thread a longer one as well. I really hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial, and if you have, give us a thumbs up, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can leave us comments and feedback because we'd love to hear from you. Until our next tutorial, bye!